Today the woods are wet because it rained a whole bunch, but not before I was able to go out and get a whole bunch of wild black raspberries. So I'm going to show you another game that you can play with your family, your kids or friends that is a little bit unusual, kind of a fun game. Today's game was made by a guy named Richard Garfield, and if you're at all into games you probably recognize his name from this game. He's the inventor of Magic: The Gathering, which was probably the first collectible card game. I don't know if it really was, but everybody says it's the first one, and it certainly is a great game. But this isn't the game I want to talk about. Instead, I want to talk about this game, King of Tokyo. And the reason I'm talking about this one is I did another video here about a game called Riverboat Farkle. And the reason I talked about that game first is because it introduces some of the concepts that will help you play a game like this. Looking inside the box, we have the rules. This is your game board with the city of Tokyo and Tokyo Bay. And then this isn't how the game comes. This is an organizer by a company called Broken Token. And they sell these organizers that are laser cut out of like balsa or some other kind of cheap wood. And they come with all the parts. You just have to kind of punch them out of the board, and then you can glue them together. And it makes games with a lot of parts, like this is for Lords of Waterdeep. They make games with a lot of kind of parts a lot easier to keep track of and set up. And I really like being able to have a really organized game so that when I get it out it doesn't take so long to set up. When you're putting these together, just be very careful that you follow the instructions very carefully. They can have little bits of information in there that they don't specifically draw your attention to, but if you have a magnifying glass you can see what the issue is. And don't ask me how I know that. Back to our game. Basically you have game boards that represent whatever character you're going to play, and it's like a monster movie. So you know, you pick a monster. There's a whole bunch of different ones you can pick, and you basically take over the city of Tokyo, and other monsters come and you battle them and you get points, and you can do all sorts of neat things. I won't explain it too much because I'm going to show an example, but I also have there's two expansions for King of Tokyo. One is the Halloween thing, and the other is Power Up, and I have both of those, but you don't need those. If you just have the base game, it's still really fun, and I'll show you how to play that. Anyway, just to look at some of the neat handy features, you know, a neat place to keep your cards and all that. Why don't we get started, and I'll show you a quick game. Today's contestants are Senor Crab, El Capitan, and of course Mr. Penguin returns. He's actually a pelican, but he identifies as a penguin. El Capitan has chosen to play as the Kraken today, and he's set the Kraken's life at 10 and the victory points at 0, which is what you're supposed to do. Senior Krabs is playing as the King. And finally, Mr. Penguin is playing as Cyber Bunny. So let's get started. They've decided that Senior Crab is going to go first. I've shuffled the cards and dealt 3 face up. Those are kind of randomly occurring powers that you can get for your monster. Somebody will win the game if everybody else's life goes to 0 and they have points left, or if they get 20 victory points. I'm not going to play a whole game because I kind of want to go to the beach. So your turn works like this. Senior Krabs rolls the dice, and he gets a number of different action figures. This one means that he can punch another monster, or if nobody is in the center, he can move to Tokyo. He can get a heart, which will heal him. He's at full health and he doesn't need that. And then these numbers mean different things. So for instance, if you have 3 1s, you can get 1 victory point. If you have 3 3s, you can get 3. And if you have 3 1s plus another 1, you get 4. So it's all explained in the rules. But the only one of these dice he wants to keep is that punch. He's going to roll again. Here's that re-rolling mechanic from Farkle that I was talking about. This means that he gets an energy, and he's going to keep these 2 2s and try to roll for another 2 to see if he can't get 2 victory points and have a real productive turn. and he doesn't make it. So these dice were worthless to him, but he gets 1 energy, and later he can use energy to buy one of these cards, which will give him extra power, and with his punch, he's moving into the city of Tokyo. Now, why you want to be there is every turn you start in Tokyo, you get 2 victory points automatically. When you're in Tokyo and you roll a punch, you hit all of the other monsters who are not in Tokyo. However, if you're in Tokyo, anytime any of the other monsters rolls a punch, it hits you. So it's kind of like the hot seat, but you get points for being there. Next, El Capitan rolls, and he rolls a punch, a heart, which he's not going to use, and some other stuff. He's going to roll again, gets another energy, he's going to roll 1 more time. So he rolls 2 punches, and a heart, which he doesn't need, and 2 energy. So he's going to collect his energy, and he's going to punch Mr. Krabs in the face twice, and Mr. Krabs goes down to 8 health. Now at this point, Mr. Krabs could say mercy and duck out and switch places with El Capitan, but he doesn't want to do that. He's kind of a risk taker, and so he's going to stay in the center. Next is Mr. Penguin's turn. He's going to roll. He gets a punch, an energy, and a heart. He doesn't need that. He's going to roll again. Another punch. 1, 2, 3, still nothing. This is his 3rd and final reroll, and he gets 2 more energy. So this is a productive turn for him. He's going to take 3 energy and hold on to that, and he's going to punch Mr. Krabs twice. So now Mr. Krabs is down to 6 points. But Mr. Krabs is looking at his next turn, and he thinks he's going to stay in the center to collect those 2 victory points. Now it's Mr. Krabs' 2nd turn. He rolls a punch, so he'll hit everyone else. 2 hearts. Now the problem is, if he were outside of Tokyo, he could heal, but since he's inside Tokyo, he can't use those. He gets an energy, and 2 things he can't use. 2nd roll, can't use that, can use this. 3rd roll, another punch. So he's going to punch the other characters twice in the face, and he's going to collect 2 energy. Since Mr. Krabs was in the center, he also collected 2 victory points that turn. But now the game has progressed. They've gone through a few turns, and El Capitan is in the center, and he's going to roll. And the hearts don't do him any good. He gets an energy, decides to roll again. Ooh, he's going to keep that because that's 1 victory point. Roll 1 more time. This doesn't do him any good, but he gets 2 energy. So he's getting 2 energy. And now he's got 8 energy. He wants to buy this card, Mimic. What this lets him do is he can choose a keep card any monster has in play and put the Mimic token on it. And that's one of these. This card counts as a duplicate of that card as if you had just bought it. Spend 1 energy at the start of your turn to change the power you were mimicking. So, he bought the card. That's what you use your energy for. Now, this game could go on and on. Eventually, someone's going to win. But it's a fantastic nerd game. So that's the game King of Tokyo. I mentioned in the beginning that I've bought the 2 expansions that are available for this, the Power Up, and basically that lets you evolve your monster. Pretty fun little addition, a twist on the game. Also introduces another monster, this panda looking thing. And then I bought the Halloween one, which gives you some orange dice and lets you put on like costumes for your monster and stuff that give you extra powers. Very fun game. We've gotten a lot of enjoyment out of this. It's easy to learn. Literally, you can teach it to anyone really quickly, and the gameplay is fast. Maybe your game might last a half an hour if it really drags on and you have really good players. He also released another game called King of New York, which is the same idea but adds a whole bunch of different stuff to it. If you play this and you feel like you've run through all the expansions and you still want to play something similar, you can pick up King of New York. Some people even like King of New York better, so you might do some research and stuff and try to figure out what you want to do there. Again, you can get a broken token organizer for King of New York if you're so inclined. This one is somewhat difficult to put together because there's this one little part in there that I screwed up, but don't use wood glue, I guess, is the bottom line until you know you have it together right. Anyway, thanks for watching, and go outside and play.